This is Cold VR, an action-packed puzzle shooter where time slows down as long as you keep moving. This releases February 11th, 2025 for the MetaQuest and PC VR headsets for $15 US, with a PSVR 2 release coming later this year. It's kinda like Superhot, but with flip mechanics, so let's see if that works or misses the mark. Hey folks, Ryan for the VR Grid here, and before we get to it, don't forget to do all the YouTube things to help us out, especially smashing that like button. Now, the review. I honestly didn't know what to expect from Cold VR, as the idea of time slowing down only when you move kinda seemed counterintuitive, and now that I've played the game, I gotta say, I think I'm right. Now first off, there is a story here about a dystopian future where AI is in control of something that can end humanity or save humanity, and you, for some reason, are at the core of this. I don't really remember too much of the story, honestly, though I will say it was told in an entertaining way, thanks to the one guy that's helping you via live-action 2D video. And while the story did kind of feel tacked on, I did still appreciate its presence over not having anything at all. This is listed as having 40 stages at time of launch, and in my play it took me just under 2 hours to get through them all. And if that sounds short to you, it's actually painfully long. Time only slowing down when you move is relegated to using your thumbstick, so when you move at your slow singular speed, time slows down as well, though never once in this game did I ever feel like a badass while doing that. Each stage will start you in an area with weapons typically nearby, and once you grab them, the level starts, and you must navigate through it, killing all the blue guys in your way. Now it's definitely important to keep moving, as if you let time go back to normal, bullets fly at you at lightning speed, enemies run at you, and it's usually a quick death. When moving in slow motion though, it kind of feels like you're jogging or hovering at a slow speed, and while this should make me feel like a badass as I cruise through stages, dodging bullets and attacks and running around enemies as they try and take me out, the speed at which everything moves is just too slow. In most stages I just felt like I was crawling around the map, trying to slowly take out my foes, hopefully with a gun, because when it was down to melee weapons, it just felt like an absolute slog. Touching enemies at all with fists or any kind of weapon will kill them, but if they're armed with guns and you only have a melee weapon on hand, things get dicey and unfair. You might feel like you have the element of surprise as the enemy faces away from you, but that's a false sense of security, as no matter which way the enemy's facing, they can see you and their gun is pointed your way. For the most part, those blue guys face you and behave as normal, but on more than a few occasions, their gun wouldn't be pointing at me at all, yet the bullet coming out of it is headed my way. By itself, that's not a huge issue, but when the later stages are packed full of guys all firing bullets your way, it can result in more cheap deaths in a game full of cheap deaths. This is compounded by grabbing weapons being somewhat finicky, collision detection being suspect, and should you get close to any geometry whatsoever, your screen turns instantly black until you back off, which frustrated my entire playthrough. When not playing in these puzzle type levels, you'll be placed in the back rooms, optional horror inspired levels where you are hunted down by these creepy, black, spiky looking humans, and if they touch you, they'll kill you instantly. Where fun was hard to come by, these stages pretty much killed any joy I had left, and while they are optional to play, I thought to myself I might as well see what the game has to offer and see what changes up. Not much does really as you navigate these maze-like levels, trying to find items or doors to get out, and even when I got through them quite quickly, they just brought me back to the next stage, and all those other frustrations. Factor in a jank factor that had levels not starting properly, some minor performance issues, hands that didn't hold weapons properly, and an overall presentation that just looks bland in the headset, and you don't get a game that I would call fun. Now to be fair, the PC version does fare much better in the visual department, offering up some bloom effects, dynamic lighting, and overall way better presentation, but in my play, the gameplay was largely the same, so while it is prettier, it's not really that much better. As far as the presentation goes, overall, I found the game to look kind of stark and bland, and while it's going for a stylized digital presentation where you're in a virtual world, it just kind of felt cheap. I'm not going to say it looks bad, but whatever flair there was in the PC version is pretty much absent here, leaving us with a game that very much felt like a standalone port to a higher quality game available on other headsets. Like I said though, not bad looking, just bland looking. Sound-wise, I guess this fares better thanks to a fast-paced, elevator music-inspired EDM soundtrack that oddly fits the action, while most sound effects are also on point. Your buddy that talks to you speaks a fairly broken English, though thankfully subtitles are included so you don't miss anything he has to say, and despite the fact his English is pretty bad, I did appreciate his performance, which I thought was spot on. During those backroom stages, The monsters that chase you make this incredibly whiny, groany, supposed to be scary kind of sound, but after a minute or two of being in the stage, it just got drony and old and irritating, and I honestly hated those stages. And that brings me to my final thoughts, as I want to keep this one short, as the game itself is a short one. Like I said, I didn't know what to expect from Cold VR, but what I got, I didn't care for. I found the action to be rarely fun, mostly monotonous, and even more frustrating. I was honestly done with the game after the first 10 minutes, but thought to myself the game must get better, and it really doesn't. Is it a bad game? No. Is it a good game? Hell no. And while the budget price sort of justifies the length of the game, you're better off picking up games like Vendetta Forever, Action Hero, or even Superhot. I'm going to give Cold VR for the Quest headsets a 5.5 out of 10. There are moments of fun to be had in here, but for the most part, it's kind of boring. And that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching.